So who was generous? Me, because I gave away clothes I didn't want, but filled the car? Or someone who gave everything they had in their savings? So it's not necessarily about the amount, but it's about that willingness to respond and just being able to not have, well, I got to protect what I have, but just freely be able to give it away and to be able to let it be used. But it's also something, that act of giving as a Christian, that goes beyond just the generosity, because anybody can be generous. Anybody can just always give things away. Some of these shows on TV, Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres, they love to give stuff away. They're very generous in that regard. But as a Christian, there's something more that happens when we're generous. And that's what we want to talk about, because it's that generosity that helps us put the right things in our basket when we live. So let's read this passage in 1 Timothy. And it's 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. This is what, excuse me. Again, find the Bible. Here it is. 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. It says this: "Command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasures for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life." Well, how does the habit of generosity then help us to be able to change our life, like we talked about, and also to put the right stuff in our basket? Well, the first thing is that it helps us, what this passage says, it helps us keep God as a source of our hope. If you notice, there was two ways that we treat money in this story when Paul was writing this thing. He talked about in the very beginning about those who are kind of arrogant. Arrogant is prideful, where I made this money and this is my money and I'm going to do what I want with this money. It's that pride that we have. And then he talks about where, and they put their hope in wealth, means that if only I can make this money, I know this will happen. And so they become very focused about that. Paul talked earlier on in this passage in verse 12 about not being a lover of money, not thinking that, boy, I just want to make money because it's going to make me happy. And so they warn us about that. Those are people who put their hope or put their focus in money. But Paul says that's unstable, that's not lasting. When we put stuff in our cart that is about us, when we do things we buy houses or buy cars or buy clothes or toys and things that it's all about us, that's fine in this world. That's fine when we're in the store shopping. That's fine when we're living in this world. And the Bible says that, you enjoy your reward right there. That's great. You got that. Have fun with it, because it's just something you're going to have here. It's not one of those lasting things. And that can be okay. Don't get me wrong. It's not that that's bad. But it is what it is. It's just something that you enjoy here, and it's not lasting, and we can't put our focus on that. But it says later on, though, if we put our hope on God who provides, is where we really want to be able to focus. He's the one that we put our trust in. He's the one that helps keep us focused on Him when we're generous. If we keep our focus, by being generous, it always reminds us to be able to stay focused on God is the one provided. So I'm free to give away because I don't have to worry about it. It's all God's. It's not mine. And God will replace it. And therefore I'm not responsible for it. I need to hold on to this because maybe I'm going to need something in a month, or maybe I need to save for something. We don't have to think that way because we know God is the one who provides, and so we can trust Him. So real generosity helps us keep our focus on God, which is really important. And the things that value, that last, that go with us are the things that are always based on that hope and that trust and that security in God, and knowing that He's the one that we're motivated to try to be able to get the right things. Those are the things that last. But then also, when we're generosity helps us become partners in God's work. The people in the story, what made it so neat about that story about the people giving is you could tell that they were so aware, because they wanted to really help out with adoptions. And here they come in with a family, which the family even said was a random meeting. Well, they were joking, because it wasn't random at all. God was at work. And so in that story, this family talked about wanting to adopt, and immediately they knew that God was putting them in a place where they could join in and they could be a part of what God was doing. That's what made that so special in the way that they gave, and that idea of generosity, is they were working for God and they were being a part of that. Excuse me. In verse 17, it talks about, it says, God provides with everything for our enjoyment. It's God the one who provides in there. But the word enjoyment is what really strikes me as interesting. Sometimes we think of enjoyment and we think, okay, something for my pleasure, something for my fun, something that I can do that I like. That's what we think of when we think of enjoyment. But that's not really what that word means. The word for that, the Bible was written in the New Testament in Greek. Any of you kids know Greek? Because if you do, I need to call you more often, because it's hard for me to figure it out. But that was the word that they wrote it in that day. And so sometimes, so we can understand it, they translate it into English. But sometimes they don't have a word that just fits just right. So they pick a word like the word enjoyment. But it doesn't really say it exactly. And so the Greek word here was apollosis. I didn't say it quite right. But anyway, apollosis. If I say it fast, it sounds better. What that word literally means is beneficial participation. But it's hard to write that sentence like that. Provides us for our beneficial participation. When you think about that, the word participation, for example, means that it takes on a different thought, because it's as if God says, it's like if I took you to the fair, or to Disneyland. They don't pay once you get in really for the rides. But if you go to the fair, and I say to you, okay, Alyssa, here's $5. You go and you have fun with us as a family, and this is what you get to spend at the fair. It's not for you to take the money and just go off and do whatever. It's to give you something so that you can be a part of what we're doing as a family. So God is really saying what He's saying here about He provides for us for our enjoyment. What God is really saying is, I'm going to equip you with the resources and the finances and the money and the talents and the abilities so that you can participate in what I'm doing and be a part of that for your own benefit and your own enjoyment. I remember someone coming to me and saying when I was going to start a church in Tracy. And it struck me because he said, really, God doesn't need me to start a church. I've used this example in here before, I think. God could start a church without me, but He's inviting me to come along for the ride and to be a part of what He's doing. God doesn't need any one of you to help someone else out in their situation of need, but He invites you to be a part of it for your own enjoyment, to your own participation, and being a part of what God is doing. That's what it's really saying to us. And so we know that what we need to do then is be prepared to participate in what God's doing. And when we're in those moments where we're like in that story there, where we're a part of what God is doing, we're putting things into our basket that last. Because we're being a part of something God is about. And God is at work in. And we get to experience those things. So, yeah, that's a big story, but it doesn't have to be $10,000 and a trampoline. It can be $8 to Tracy Interfaith Ministry. It could be helping someone out with a PG&E bill that God just lays on you're aware that they have a situation they need help on, and say, look, I can do that. Let me help them out. Helping a neighbor who's struggling next door, being a part of that. But the key is back into what generosity really means. It's that readiness to be able to liberally give. The readiness to be able to respond and say, hey, let me help. Let me be a part of that. Those are the things, when we're a part of that, we get to add it to the cart. Those are the valuable things that we get to take on with us. Because what it says here, the other thing about this, is that we need to we invest in our future. That's what really is happening here. There's two phrases in here. It talks about in the very end, in 19, it says, because then you can store up treasures for a firm foundation.